Good afternoon. It's afternoon on the East Coast. Looking for people to come in. Hopefully, the notifications are going through. It's Thursday, the 19th of August, 2021, and you are watching live Real Talk with Mary Grace. I'm Mary Grace, and as you come in, please say hello. Hello to everybody who's watching. Good to see you. Great to see everybody. Come on in, share as you come in. Okay, somebody got a notice. That's great. So turn on your notifications on your social media so that you don't miss an episode. My schedule is a little bit fluid these days because of everything that's going on with my construction here. The whole world is fluid right now, so it's kind of fitting that I'm using a different schedule. And I just wanted to let you guys know that. So just keep your notifications on, just check your social media occasionally. I'm broadcasting on YouTube, Clout Hub, uh, Facebook, and Twitter. Twitter is Real Mary Grace 1, and I don't know if it's under Periscope or Twitter or what, but if you go on Twitter, it's there. And a lot of people don't know this, but you don't have to be logged into Twitter to watch things, to look at links. So when people share links in Telegram and things like that, you a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not on Twitter." It's not like Facebook where they make you log in to look at something. You can actually see things. So that's just an FYI, and it's kind of convenient. Okay, now I hope everybody's doing okay. I'm going to wait for a few more people to get here. There's a lot to talk about as usual. There's a lot. Hopefully, you guys had a chance to watch yesterday's episode, and then I did an episode on Monday, and I think both were good. Hello to everybody. Yep, I'm on early today, and I'm gonna be on for about an hour. So just sit back, relax. If you're driving, turn off the screen, just listen. Don't try to comment. And otherwise, if you come in after the show, please do leave a comment, especially on YouTube or Facebook, and then also tag your friends. It helps the broadcast to get shown in the feed when you do that. And then when you like or when you like the channel, when you like the broadcast, that also helps. So just remember that. That's a good rule of thumb as you come in. So thank you to all who make comments after the fact. I can't see as many comments on Facebook. They just sort of cut it off after a certain amount. So even if thousands of comments come on the live stream, I can't actually see them all after the fact. It's very strange. So there's that. I don't know if you guys can see them, when you're not the channel owner. It would be interesting to know, but I can't see them. So there's that. Okay. Now, where should I start? Oh, I'll tell you where I'll start. So, who here follows Peggy Hall, the Healthy American? She's on a lot of platforms. One of her YouTube videos came across my screen today, and I shared it in my Telegram, which is Real Mary Grace, or sorry, Mary Grace Media Official. Make sure you're following that channel. I put her broadcast in there because I wanted people to see what she's talking about. It's highly relevant to where we are right now, and that is she was talking specifically about people who are in a position of their employer um, forcing them to get tested continually, even when they opt out for religious reasons from other procedures. And I think a lot of people are in that situation. I know I have one family member who was in that situation at the state, working for the state. And she said they just made it so unpleasant and so difficult to opt out of the procedure that she ended up getting it. She ended up getting the jab just because it was so, ridiculous. Basically, they bully you into getting it. And that there's 2 reasons that they're doing that, and I'll go over that in just a second, um, why I think they're pushing it so hard. But let me just tell you what Peggy was saying, and then you can go to her channel and find out more. She has a membership site. I think it's Peggy Hall dot no, the healthyamerican.tv or peggyhall.tv. I can't remember. Check both of those, but that's where she does all of her uncensored content. But what she did today was she was explaining that OSHA has regulations for how employers are supposed to protect their employees. And this goes with any safety issue, not just with the Rona. But it says on their website, and she goes into more detail, but she's explaining to you how you can get out of this nonstop cycle of being forced to have something shoved up your nose every week, because you don't want something shoved in your arm, in your body. And she said it's really in the wording and in the language because the OSHA regulations call for screening and not testing, and those things are different. And she goes into detail and explains how they're different, how she knows that they're different from personal experience. It's worth looking at her video and understanding how to circumvent this situation, how to face it head on. Um, if you know somebody that's in a situation like that where they have successfully opted out, but now their employer is making it impossible for them to resist because now they're pushing them to get something shoved up their nose every week. It's like it's bullying, okay? And so she explains the difference, and she explains how you can talk to your employer, and then she also gives you details on where to go for legal resources to deal with this. And one of the things that she goes into from a religious standpoint, which I think more people need to understand, is you can have a religious objection to having something put into your body, whether it's through your arm, through your nose, in your mouth, whatever it is. You can have a religious objection. And the Supreme Court has already ruled that a religious belief is a closely held belief. It doesn't have to fall in line with any doctrine. So any employer that is making you spell out the doctrine or the verse or the catechism or anything like that, the part of the lexicon that you're basing your belief on is completely out of line. They're actually out of line with the Supreme Court's definition of a religious belief. And so again, if people understood the definitions and the rights, they wouldn't allow people to run over them. A lot of people just assume that because a clerk in an office shoves a piece of paper in your face, that you have to sign it and that you have to agree to it. 9 times out of 10, the clerk who is giving you the piece of paper doesn't even know what it means, and they don't understand the violations implied in that piece of paper. They're just working, you know? And I'll give you an example. I went to the hospital one time to get a mammogram, and it was um it was when I went in, they give you the HIPAA forms to sign, and but then they had that was another paper where it said it was a consent form. And they were asking me to sign a paper to consent to waive my rights of from search and seizure. What does that mean? The paper said I consent to have my belongings searched if anyone in this facility believes that I have any dangerous items in my possession. That's the gist of it. That's what it said. And I was looking at that paper and I thought, "Wait a minute. So if anybody who works here gets it in their noggin that I might have something in my bag or in my pocket that they think is dangerous, then if I sign this piece of paper, I'm waiving my right to prevent them from searching me without a warrant." I asked them about it, and of course, they didn't know. I said, What is this?" I said, Why would I sign this? Do you understand what this is saying here?" They had no idea. They're just used to handing you the paper and saying, "Sign here." And I said, "Well, if I don't sign this, am I gonna be prevented from getting the procedure done today?" And they had no answer, of course. They were like, I don't know." I said, "Well, I'm gonna take my chances. I'm not signing this. You can shred it. You can do whatever you want with it. I'm not signing it." And, so I think I've talked about that before, but the point is that most people who work in, those in the, receptionist jobs, they don't know the law. They don't know the Constitution. I'm making a generalization. Some of you may actually have jobs like that, and if you're watching me, you probably have a better idea of the law and the Constitution than most people. But a lot of these, jobs are either temps or entry level, and people just aren't informed. They don't make it their business to be informed. They're just punching a clock and they're getting a paycheck. That's why they're there. And so it really is incumbent upon you to understand and know your rights. And you can be pleasant about it. You don't have to be nasty. You just politely, once you read through things, you just politely say, "This is not okay. I'm not doing this." And that's what Peggy Hall is all about. She's all about empowering people to make informed decisions and to have those conversations and to communicate with people in such a way that really allows you to stand up for your rights and not to be bullied into doing things that go against the Constitution and against your God-given rights. And so I urge people to understand that. And somebody just said, I'm a receptionist in a spa, political science. See, you're the exception, right? But you know what I'm talking about. When you walk into the hospital, a lot of the people who are sitting there, they're just shoving you a piece of paper. So I apologize if I'm stepping on anybody's toes, but and it's not just receptionists, right? It's just people in general. They're just not educated on these matters. I have friends who have multiple degrees who have no idea what their rights are. They're lecturing me and telling me that, and telling me, what about others when I decide that I'm not going to get an experimental procedure? And, they're trying to shame me into taking personal responsibility for anybody but myself. I'm not going to do it. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, that was an example. Check out Peggy Hall, The Healthy American. She has some great content. She has great resources. The other resources are America's Frontline Doctors. They have a legal page that is set up to help people navigate some of the things that are going on right now. You do not have to be victim to any employer that is trying to force you to participate in any medical procedure, whether it's something up your nose, something in your arm, something put into your body. It's your body, your choice. And it's important that you go into these situations armed with the talking points and the tools to be able to come out a victor and not be a victim to the situation. One of the things that I see a lot in my channel, in the chat, in a lot of the Telegram rooms, is I see a fatalist attitude of people saying, people acting like victims. And it's very sad because I think that, it's that's part of the reason we're in the situation we're in, because people have this pacifist victim mentality. And, we criticize liberals for being snowflakes. Um, but the truth is, you got to take a look in the mirror sometimes, because if you're sitting there telling me "Oh, I can't do this because, my job, because, they require this, or, right, they require this." It's up to you to empower yourself and to take a stand. It may take a little bit of work on your part. It may take a little bit of research on your part. I've done that kind of thing in multiple situations where I've had somebody tell me, "You have to do this," or, "You can't do this. The answer is no." And when I do a little bit more research, I actually find there is a possible yes here. And I think that if more people had that attitude, of just saying, "I don't think this is the final answer, and I'm gonna do what I can to find an alternative and present it in a way that is respectful and professional," I may actually just get what I want. And that's just been my MO pretty much my whole life. And, do you lose some? Yeah, sometimes you do. But in my experience, when you're hit with a no, or a, um, a requirement, or a must do, or a mandate, there's usually a way out. And so there's usually a way around it. And that is what I want to encourage all of you to start to understand, that it is incumbent upon freedom-loving Americans to take the power back into your own hands. And then the next job that you have to do is, it's your job, once you figure it out, to pass it on and to pay it forward and to help others. Because we can't be an island. We're not, you can't, you can't just be an isolated little island. If you have a skill, if you have an ability, if you've gotten somewhere, if you've gotten to the top of the hill, and you've gotten the information, and um, you found out something that can help other people, it's up to you to share and to help people. Because as you probably figured out, the government isn't running to help people. They're saying they're helping. It's all about control. All right. And so you have to be that person that is passing the torch, and handing the knowledge, and empowering, and reaching down, and picking other people up who may not quite be there yet. Does that make sense? I think that if more people had that attitude, as opposed to, "Oh my gosh, this is so terrible. My job is making me do this. We just can't win. When is it going to end? When are we going to have a solution? Nobody's going to fix this." Well, you know what? You're part of the answer. And this is something that, we've been talking about a lot. This is something that, I mentioned yesterday. We're gonna be doing the nationwide strike, and, Lynn Wood is kind of leading the charge on that, and I'll be talking more about that. But this is what we're talking about. It's, getting people really engaged at the grassroots level, with all of the, situations that have been holding people back. So it's not just about where you shop, or where you put your attention, or anything like that. It has a lot more to do with self-empowerment as well, and personal responsibility. So that is my little rant about that. And so go and take a look at Peggy Hall. She's a great resource. Now, on that same vein, I just saw an article today about Hillsdale College. Now, a lot of people are concerned about the curriculum that's being pushed. The What do you call it? 1619 critical race theory. Um, Penny on YouTube. Thank you for the suggestion. I actually already moved on from that particular screening modality. That was several years ago. Haven't been back, but thank you. I appreciate that. That's a good reminder. Um, okay, let me just look at this article. Where is it? All right. So this is Hillsdale College has released a 1776 curriculum. Now, you may remember that this is something that President Trump put into action while he was in office last year to counter critical race theory. So this is great news because it says the curriculum offers nearly 2,500 pages of materials broken down into grade specific lessons. So here's what I'm going to recommend. It says Hillsdale College has released what it's calling the 1776 curriculum, which is designed to give K through 12 teachers the tools to teach students a more patriotic approach to American history. Our curriculum was created by teachers and professors, not activists, not journalists, not bureaucrats. And then there's a press release. It comes from years of studying America, its history, its founding principles, not some slapdash journalistic scheme to achieve a partisan political end through students. It is truly American education. So there is a link, okay, right here. So it's k12.hillsdale.edu. I don't have a screenshot, but I'll show you. This is where you want to go. Okay. Now remember, if you post links in my chat, you need to break up the link and you need to write out the dot part. So it would be Hillsdale, and then you spell out DOT, and then you spell out EDU, and you put a space. And then somebody who comes to look at the link, you just need to retype it and take out the words. All right. So 1776 curriculum, K through 12 classrooms. I think that this would be a great thing, whether you're a teacher or whether you are at home supporting your children through homeschooling or online learning. I would highly urge parents and grandparents, caregivers, to take a look at this, and teachers to go and use this resource. So this is another example of self-empowerment. If at this point you're depending on the government schools to educate your children, you've got to rethink that. Even if you're in a situation where you can't totally homeschool, I recommend that you get a curriculum like this and that you take advantage of this resource to undo the damage that's being done during the day when your children are in the hands of the government indoctrination. That is up to you, a parent. It's not just the government's job to fill your children's head full of Marxist indoctrination. Okay. So take responsibility. And the thing is, when you do this, if you do something like this with your child, you're going to learn also. So I wanted to point that out. Now, you guys, I said that I was going to talk about why they're pushing so hard to get people the shots. So here's what I think. I've been really thinking about this because it's like, I mean, first of all, they rebranded the flu, the common cold, with a massive PR campaign, and it's just been nonstop, right? And they've just crippled half the world in fear. They've already done that. Now they are pushing to get a high number of people. They want the whole population of the whole world to have the jab. Now, President Trump did an interview last night with Greg Kelly on Newsmax. I'm not going to cover the whole interview, but I am going to say that he was asked about the booster that they're pushing. Is anybody surprised that they're pushing a booster? No. He was asked about that, and he's flat out said that is just a moneymaker. I mean, there's nothing more than that. Now, I'm wondering, I've been thinking about all these governors, local officials, even colleges, sports programs. Why are they pushing it so hard? Well, I think there's a pretty easy answer for that. There's a big bonus somewhere. If you follow the money, you're going to see that all of these entities are getting paid off. that there's a big, that there's a big monetary carrot at the end of this game, and that we already know that colleges have received huge stipends for enforcing the for enforcing all of the Centers for Disease Creation guidelines. We know that. And so it all comes back to money. I wouldn't be surprised if colleges are getting money um, for every student and faculty member, staff member that has been inoculated. Now, why would they pay people off to do this? Why is it so important for them to get the shots in the people's arms? Well, one of the obvious conclusions is that if you're aware of what's going on, you know that the human trial is occurring right now, and that the population at large are the subjects. They've a lot of them have pretty much scrapped the actual trials, and it's not FDA approved. So you and me, we're literally part of the human trial. Now, every trial needs a control group. That means the group that didn't have any treatment or that took placebo or whatever. Um, and the problem, and that's they do that so that if they when they look at the results, they're going to see, okay, who did better, the control group or the group that received the treatment. And so that gives you a baseline. Well, we're already seeing that a lot of the people who already took it are having massive breakthrough infections. Now, they're still trying to blame it on the people that didn't take it. They're still pushing that narrative. The problem is, if they convince everybody to take it, then they're not going to be able to pin those. There's nobody's going to be able to say, hey, I didn't get the shot and I didn't get the thing. Okay, I didn't get the Rona. And so basically, if they eliminate the control group, then when problems happen down the road, you can't really blame it on the shot because you can't distinguish between who got it and who didn't, right? And so if somebody comes down with cancer, if somebody is struggling with infertility, if people have heart problems, you can't pin it back on the shot if everybody got it. They could just say, it could have been anything. Oh, he was a smoker. Oh, he was exposed to this. Oh, too many fats in the diet, whatever. They're trying to eliminate the control group. That's the bottom line. And so somebody has a vested interest in eliminating the control group, and they are pushing, pushing, pushing to the point of paying off people and governments and institutions to get 100% compliance. That is all there is to it, because they know that what they have created is very problematic. And so they have to erase any possibility that that any of the problems, either now or down the road, can be traced back to the jab. That's it. Because, you know, there's going to be at some point, I think, a statute of limitations of when people can hold them liable for damages from getting it. And again, if there's no control group, then nobody can say unequivocally that it was caused by that. That's a lot of what's going on here. It's just evil. It's complete and totally profit driven, money driven, you name it. Okay. My chat just went completely silent. I don't know if everybody is multitasking or what, but are you guys there? Yeah. So, yeah, that's my point, Karen, on Facebook. They can't be sued for the deaths and illnesses because you can't, there would be no comparison. So a lawyer couldn't stand up and say, this many people who got it, got this disease, and they were all exposed to this poison. okay? That they were all exposed to this poison. And because if everybody was exposed to it, there's no comparison. Okay. Now, that is, thank you for letting me know you're here, people. So that is what is, that's what's going on here. And there's so much at stake. There's so much money at stake that they're putting out $5 million lottery prizes to get compliance. So imagine how much is at stake long term financially and how much they stand to make if they're willing to gamble this much upfront. I mean, these are pretty big odds. Um so do you understand? So now somebody said they thought you had to sign something saying there's no liability. I believe there's all kinds of things you have to sign, but I also believe at some point there would be that there'd be some statute of limitations. I haven't read the legal documents to go with this, but I also think that a good lawyer can get around those disclaimers. It's just like when you go somewhere and you sign a waiver, like if you go to a swimming pool or a gym and you sign a waiver that you're not going to hold somebody accountable. um, a good lawyer can get around that because if the if the if the gym, has faulty equipment or something breaks or something, and you fall and you have an injury, you can sue them, right? So um, those agreements that people sign, those waivers that people sign, can actually be fought by a good lawyer. Okay. Um, Somebody on Facebook, Dom, says his brother has had two seizures 24 days after the J&J. The second one was very severe, clinging on to life right now. Wow. We will pray for him. Um, I've heard of that too. I've known people who've been hospitalized, you know, in a coma. There's a lot. There's a lot of problems. Now I know some of you are still sitting here thinking, well, why is the president telling people to get it? President Trump. It's a good question. I don't have the answer. I do know that he constantly follows his statements with he constantly follows up by saying everybody has a choice. It's everybody's personal choice. And this is what he's really trying to get people to understand. And I think it's like I was saying earlier, you know, he can't fight your employer for you. You have to do that. When he was inaugurated, he said, "We are returning power to the people." And that's a lot of what is going on right now. That's a lot of what we're seeing right now is that the people are having to wake up and take power back into their hands. He can't order audits at the state level. He can't order a local election office to clean up their mess and to get machines out. He's not the Wizard of Oz. He can't snap his fingers and say, "Be gone with you." That a lot of people attribute those kinds of powers to him, but that's not his lane, nor should it be. You don't want to be under a president for um, you don't want to be um, under a president that acts that way. Okay, Gizmo's mom, I think you're late because I just did a whole segment about the situation with the jobs, and so yeah, it is a choice. Everybody has a choice. Even if yeah, you do. I hate to say this, and I'm not trying to disrespect you, but you do have a choice, okay? A Anybody that tells me that you don't have a choice, then you're a victim. It may mean you lose your job. I mean, I know people that have been in that situation. Yeah. But at some point, I mean, the founding fathers pledged their lives and their fortunes and their sacred honor to free our country from tyranny. We're at war. And so somebody might get in a situation where they walk away. I was just talking yesterday about a one of our listeners in Florida who is an immigrant from a very corrupt country who loves America, who was fired from their job, not over the jab, but over the stupid face diaper. 18 months in, fired over the face diaper. And, she could have complied. She could have gone back and said, "Oh, please give me my job. I'll do whatever you say." But there comes a point where you have to fear God and you have to value your freedom and what we have in this country more than you value um, that paycheck. It takes a lot of faith, okay? I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying you do have a choice. We still have choices in this country. Nobody is putting you in handcuffs and hitting you over the head and forcibly injecting you with that. Not yet. But if people don't start standing up, if people don't start taking their freedoms, just like we're seeing done with the nurses, with the airline pilots, um, then we're going to be in that situation. What do you think it's like in a country like China? That's a country that does forced sterilizations on people. That's a country that does organ harvesting. You might want to look that up. People don't have a choice. That's a country that has forced labor, child labor, labor camps. They don't have a choice. So if we're talking about I don't have a choice, let's just be very clear about what that means. Let's get real. Let's get down to the brass tacks. In America, still, because we still have a constitution, you do have a choice. Are there pockets of corruption? Yes. Are there situations where people feel trapped? Yes. But you still have a choice. Because so far, we haven't gone 100% communist. People need to get very clear about that. Yeah. So, yeah, I get what you're saying, Gizmos. Yeah. People have jobs, people have mortgages, they do. But this is a fight to the death. Um, you know, so again, go back to the founding fathers. They lost their businesses. They lost their jobs. They lost their homes. They were willing to put it right on the line. And I think that a lot of people in this country, because they don't actually see bullets flying around America, they don't get that we're at war. But we are at war. Our country was attacked. It was attacked at the end of 2019, and it was attacked in the voting booth. It was attacked. We are at war. Bottom line. Um, you know, and I know that people are grappling with this. I know that people are having a hard time with this, and they're having a hard time seeing the things that are happening to their friends, to their families. It just, but if we're seeing people in this country start to take a stand. That is what had to happen. We had to get to this point. Is there going to be fallout? Will there be collateral damage? Absolutely. But if you consider the alternative, if you consider the way that people's lives are governed in countries outside of the US, then in my opinion, it's worth losing everything for. This is the only country, that people risk their life to come to. This is the only country where people put their children in the hands of coyotes on the chance of getting them into America. I don't see anybody giving their children over to Al Qaeda terrorists to get them into the borders of Afghanistan. Is anybody sending their kids over there right now? Gotta get them in before they close the country. Gotta get them over there. No, no. Is anybody like, you know, banging at the gates to get into China? No. It's you guys need to. Everybody needs a reality check. This is it. This is the last frontier. This is the last shining city on a hill. This is it, guys. This is it. You might lose your job fighting for freedom. You might lose your friends. I've lost friends. I have friends who think I'm crazy, insane, conspiracy nut. They probably think I'm a terrorist now because I question things that the DHS says that I shouldn't question. And yet I go on. This is it. This is it. People die to come here. And I've been in a lot of countries. Um, there's no other place that people are dying to get to. They all want to go out. They all want to go out. And I'll tell you, I've actually been in countries where I've been in countries where uh, you actually have to be careful about giving away your address. If somebody befriends you, um, you have to be very careful about the associations that you make and and even giving somebody your address because if because they'll use that to try to claim you as a sponsor to get into our country. Now, would it ever occur to you what if you meet somebody in our country from, Iran or Russia or, Uzbekistan or whatever, would it ever occur to you to say, "Oh, hey, let's be pen pals. I want to write to you," but you're really getting their address so that when you want to emigrate to that country, that you actually can use their address and claim them as a sponsor? No, you just want to send them a letter. But that's a thing when Americans travel overseas. Do you know that? People don't understand that. They have no idea what it is that we have in this country. Um, Most immigrants get it. Most people who've come to this country legally and have gotten away from countries that are rife with corruption, they get it. Uh, the other ones don't. I think it would be good to send people abroad to like Africa or Indonesia, China, out in the bush, like not in the four-star hotels. That's not what I'm talking about. If people saw that, they would 100% be willing to risk it all to protect what we have. Okay, let me check my time here. I think I can go to the next topic. Yeah, I mean, when people go abroad, it depends on where they go. Some people come back, some people go abroad and they get brainwashed into hating the country, hating America, um, because there's an element out there that is really good at gaslighting. Most people, I think, who spend time abroad, um, get a greater appreciation for this country. Most people. I did. I mean, I loved my time abroad, but I love America. Love it. Love it. But I wouldn't trade anything that I've done, the places that I've been, and especially because it's given me so much perspective on what we have here. There's nothing there's nothing more beautiful than an American flag when you are um, when you're abroad. There's nothing that fills you with more pride and peace than seeing an American flag when you're overseas. I saw a lot of American flags up in the Normandy area in the north of France because, that's where our troops landed and liberated the beaches at Normandy. Um, this is a good comment on YouTube from Sing to I Am, Donna. The Lord gave us free will. We've been resting on the work of our forefathers in this country, but God put us here at this time. He has given each of us what we need to fight for his purposes here. Very well said. Very well said. Exactly. Okay. Stephanie said that she resigned yesterday. It was hard, but I'm free, starting my own business. This is America, land of opportunity. Exactly. Yeah. So, Stephanie, one of the things that we're going to be doing with the Strike for Freedom movement is we're going to be putting together directories of independently owned businesses and services. So make sure you keep an eye on that. And I have a feeling I haven't talked in detail yet to Lynn about the logistics of this, but I have a feeling that we're going to need sort of regional and area captains who are good at logistics and organization to gather all of this information. Obviously, one person can't do it all. So stay tuned for that. If you have a gift of organization, that may be a way that you can actually serve people and help get that information in the right place. Okay. Um, yep, special education service provider, private tutoring for conservatives. There you go. What area are you in, Stephanie? Okay, see, this is how it works. Yeah. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some things that came up in the news. I'm going to shift gears and we're going to talk about politics. Not that we haven't been already, but I wanted to talk to you about what was going on because yesterday or today, I can't remember, but Millie, what should we call him? Because he certainly doesn't have a single bit of spine at this point. I mean, he's like a worm. He's like a worm crawling across the earth. Zero spine. There's no way that he should be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and yet he is. Okay. He says we don't have the capability to get civilians out of Afghanistan. Um, And this is kind of funny. It's kind of ironic because all the people that have been hating on the military, I was over on the Twitter sphere looking at comments under his video, and I don't think they're all conservatives, but all of a sudden they love our military. They're commenting and saying we have the best military in the world. We have the most powerful military. Why can't we intervene? Why can't we get our people out of there? It's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's just like during the Rona, all of a sudden the open borders crowd wanted President Trump to close the border. Oh, really? You want to close border? Huh, that's funny. Yeah, because last time he tried to do that, you called him racist. But now that we have a new boogeyman called the Rona, you want him to close the border so nobody can come in and get you sick. Is that how that works? So when it affects your personal comfort and your fear level, if it makes you more afraid, then you actually want him to do it. But but when it, when it doesn't work with your narrative of a racist, then you don't want him to do it. That's pretty much what we're dealing with right here. So this is a situation that gives people who have always hated the military or said they did, it gives them an opportunity to virtue signal and and to um it gives them the opportunity of virtue signal. So now all of a sudden they want the military to intervene to get civilians out of Afghanistan. But that brings me to something else that happened, and there's an article that was published by the National Pulse. They're doing good work these days. The National Pulse. That's Raheem Kassam, and I think Natalie Winters is still over there. Bannon features them a lot on his show because Raheem sometimes co-hosts with Bannon on the War Room. I don't even know if I can say that on this channel because it hurts the feelings of the socialist media people, but I said it. Okay. Let me find this article. Wow. Hold on. Okay, so yeah, this is crazy. So it says Joe Biden's State Department halted a Trump area crisis response plan aimed at avoiding Benghazi style evacuations just months before the Taliban takeover. Wow. Interesting. Okay. So they canceled a critical State Department program aimed at providing swift and safe evacuations of Americans out of crisis zones just months prior to the fall of Kabul, the National Pulse can exclusively reveal. So it's called the Contingency and Crisis Response Bureau. Um, it was paused by Anthony Blinken's State Department earlier this year. Notification was officially signed just months before the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. Huh. Wow. Um, Interesting. So they post a link to the memo. I'm going to put this in the Telegram room. Very interesting. Why would they do that? Why would they cancel anything that is designed to get Americans out of harm's way? Oh, it's almost like they want people to get hurt. I don't know. What do you think? Marshmallow Millie. Um, let's see. Somebody heard a rumor that President Trump is finding a way to evacuate like Dunkirk in the 30s or 40s. Yeah. It's not surprising. Okay. So, now here's what else I wanted to read you though, because this is interesting. Chris Miller. Do you remember Chris Miller? He was the acting Secretary of Defense. He was appointed actually after the election in the fall. And he is the one, he's the one who, he's the one that, that was there was it wasn't really a press conference, it was a ceremony where he was introducing Ezra Cohen. And Ezra Cohen was given the position of the Special Operational Assistant Secretary, Special Operations Assistant Secretary. It's a civilian position that supports the special forces, and that is something that Patel Patriot has been writing about in his articles about devolution, Devolution, devolution. Some people think it's a different word, but it isn't. And that is the concept that our president never actually um, never actually left office. That there is a contingency plan in place to keep continuity of government because we're at war. And so, with that in mind, Patel Patriot posted an article yesterday from a publication called Defense One. And it was very interesting. So, the title of this is Trump's pledge to exit Afghanistan was a ruse, his final Secretary of Defense says. Chris Miller now says talk of a full withdrawal was a play to convince a Taliban led government to keep U.S. counterterrorism forces. So, the gist of it is, and I'll share this again in my Telegram, the gist of it is that. Um, that that there was never that Trump had never intended had never intended to withdraw fully and completely from Afghanistan. And this article goes into some of the reasoning behind that. One of the major points is that Chris Chris Miller had war gamed all of the scenarios or potential scenarios of what would happen in the region if we left completely, if we came, if we stayed, if we kept a certain amount of troops in, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the thing that Chris Miller concluded was that the most optimal scenario was to keep troops in, but to keep a very limited number of special operations troops, of special forces. In fact, the number that he came up with was 800. And his rationale for that can be explained a little bit uh, in a talk that he gave at the ceremony, or I guess it was Ezra Cohen that gave the talk, but at the ceremony, Ezra Cohen was talking about actually a vision that JFK had about warfare and how warfare would be conducted in the future, and that it would be that warfare that the most effective warfare in modern times would be would be done with smaller specialized units. And that is what President Trump was putting into place during his tenure. And they were working on it pretty much all throughout his presidency. And the reason that this is significant, it's a little bit esoteric because I'm not a military specialist and I'm trying to explain it to you the best that I can understand and in a way that is simple. What I understand this to be, I understand this revelation to be very much in line with the concept that we're looking at to support the idea that devolution is actually happening, that we're in devolution, that President Trump is actually still with us, for lack of a better word. And I'm trying to censor myself as well. But one of the things that I've been saying all along is that throughout this process that has been playing out over the last 9 months, that the military, that to the extent that the military is in control, it is small, often clandestine units of special operators that nobody actually knows is operating. And I think given what we know about the way that President Trump functions and the fact that we already know that he has um that he already has sort of spies everywhere, it would support that idea. And one of the things that his detractors in Afghanistan say, one of the people that, sorry, his detractors on Afghanistan policy say, is that they're trying to pin all of this on Trump for withdrawing troops. And it's not really holding water because people know that, even if we had 1,000 if even if we have 10,000 troops there, that's not necessarily a winning strategy. The numbers don't uh, always mean strength. Sometimes there's strength in numbers, sometimes there's strength in stealth. All right. And so I believe that the strategy that is being taken on many fronts by President Trump and his trusted people in the Defense Department is that there is strength in stealth. I think that's the bottom line of what we're getting at here. And I also think that it's logical to conclude that President Trump never actually intended on removing all presence from Afghanistan. The interesting part of this article is that he's that the negotiations were that they always knew that the Taliban would share would have at least some responsibility in leadership in that country. It's very interesting. There. In other words, there was never any intention to eradicate the Taliban completely. And I think a lot of people had this idea that the Taliban would just be gone. Um, and when you read this article, you can see clearly that that was not the intention. It was not the idea. Seth Keshel said that it was never our intention to win in Afghanistan. And um, if you think about some of the things that I've been saying before, it makes sense because anybody who has a very deep understanding of the geopolitical reality of that part of the world would know that you're dealing with a a tribal hierarchy that goes back thousands of years. And to think that you're going to bring in a Western ideology and turn that that type of hierarchy and that social structure, social and geopolitical structure around, even in a 20-year period, is delusional. So I think the people who are actually students of history who understand uh, ancient and modern warfare have been able to grasp that pretty clearly when dealing with the leadership of this region. And in the case of what is going on there, and again, this is my opinion, I am not a Middle Eastern scholar, but my understanding and my opinion based on other things that I've seen happening, and for example, on what happened in Libya after Hillary Clinton went and took out Gaddafi, it was a disaster because he was sort of the balancing point that kept all of the tribal factions and um, all of the gangs in check. And so when she did that, when her State Department did that, it completely upset the balance and it just opened the floodgates for atrocities beyond imagination. Um, and so going to Afghanistan, I think that when you read this article about how Chris Miller describes what was going on there, to me, it's logical that that one, we never expected to have a complete win or an end to the war there because this is literally centuries and millennia of war. It's just like saying that you would stop tribal factions on the continent of Africa. Um, that you would stop, the Zulus from fighting the Xhosa. You can't do that. It's just it's millennial issues. Okay, same thing here. And so somebody asked me when they saw this news, that the president had never intended to withdraw fully from Afghanistan. They asked me if it was good or bad. And I think it's hard to really answer it in black or white because depending on how you look at it, it could be really good. Depending on how you look at it, it could be really bad. I actually think it's a good thing because I think that it represents a very sober and intelligent approach to the reality of that region. I think it would be foolish to withdraw completely and to leave a vacuum. And I think I'm right because look what just happened. Uh, the Faker 46, the resident in chief in the White House, did just that. And what happened? It didn't even take 48 hours for that vacuum to be filled up because, nature abhors a vacuum. And it's, again, there are all kinds of theories. There are people who've studied this for years who probably have different opinions than I do based on more information. But you guys know I like to give you sort of the 30,000-foot view of what I see happening. Now, is there a reason that Faker 46 withdrew so completely? Oh, more than likely, yes. And I talked about that already. Obviously, there is somebody knocking at his door saying, it's time for us to take over Afghanistan. You better get out. Obviously, that's what's happening. So, you know, if we had people on the ground, it wouldn't be with the intention of nation building. It would be with the intention of keeping an eye on and maintaining the balance of power in that area. Now, here's something that you might want to consider. If if in fact it was never President Trump's intention to withdraw fully from Afghanistan, and to keep special forces in country, what's to say that those special forces were removed from the country? Has anyone actually reported that all of them are out of there? Because here's the thing, the whole point of special forces is that you don't know they're there. And if we are in devolution and the real commander in chief is still in control, I talked about this yesterday. What if our people are still there? What if we have a presence there that isn't being reported because it's clandestine? Then what? I think you'll have to stay tuned. Just a thought. Because again, nobody's going to announce on the news that special forces were pulled out, are they? And I think that could be the point of this article, you know, to give people a heads up to say, yo, China, yo, Taliban, I wouldn't get too comfy. We're watching you. Because the timing of the article is very interesting, isn't it? What was the date? Oh, August 18th. Last night it came out. Interesting. Think about it. And that leads me to a question that I was asked. Yeah, Delia says Faker 46 would not know about them being there. Exactly. So those are my thoughts on that. And so I was asked recently, okay, I was asked recently about my allegiance to President Trump. I was asked because I like him, obviously, and I'm a big supporter and I'm a big fan. And I'm going to tell you when I see things that he's done. I think some people, in some ways, you might consider me a Trump whisperer. I sort of interpret his actions in a way that makes more sense to people. But somebody said, do you want to reevaluate now? And it was based on a couple of things that have happened that really aren't a good reflection on policies that he made or decisions that he made. One was the fact that Amy Coney Barrett made a ruling independently of the other justices that is not in support of the Constitution, and it had to do with the mandates, and she was siding with the institution that was forcing mandates. And so that was one of the things. Oh, and you guys saw that story, right? You saw where all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, she's not the one we wanted. And we're seeing other indicators of that as well. We've seen that with Gorsuch. And the truth of the matter is, the people that were recommending these justices, and in many cases, it was the Federalist Society, which tends more toward Chamber of Commerce rhino behavior. Now we see that. Okay, so yeah, that was a bad thing. Is it disappointing? Absolutely. There are some other things that he's done, that President Trump has done, decisions that he's made that actually have not been good for the country. Um, all no, yeah. And there are there's decisions that he's made, even with the response to the to the Rona. There are things that I don't understand. I don't understand why he didn't have a panel of doctors who were actually treating patients, who were giving reports every week about successes, things like that. I don't understand why he allowed Pence to go on isolating seniors and putting them in a position that killed a lot of people and destroyed people's lives. There are questions. I mean, if I were able to sit in a room with him and ask him some questions, I would ask him those questions. However, does that cause me to reevaluate my overall support of him? No, it doesn't. And I'll tell you why. Because in the grand scheme of things, um, the good that he has done and the exposure that he has brought far outweighs the things that have been less than optimal, the bad choices, the things that may have hurt people on one area. There's no other human being on the planet that I know of that could have done what he did in the last 4 years and what he is still doing. Nobody. Nobody could have stood there and taken the slings and arrows that he has taken, the abuse, the constant scrutiny, the flat out abuse and slander and libel and lying of the trash media. Nobody could have done that because now that we understand how the GOP works, we know that any other president produced by the GOP would have folded like a cheap suit in the first, like after the first P tape came out. We know that. There's nobody on the planet with the backbone of this president. And I'll tell you the other reason that I will never back down from my support of him and my belief that he is the one for the job, that he was the one for the job, that he remains the one for the job. And that is that I firmly believe that he was chosen by God for the position that he is in. And for me to withdraw my support would be the equivalent of walking away and removing my faith in God because I believe that God chose this person. And I am not going to go against God's anointed. That would be a bad move. Um, and if I hear otherwise, if there's something that happens either prophetically or in the spirit realm that convinces me that God has removed his hand from Donald Trump, or that Donald Trump has done something like a Saul move that removes God's favor from him, then I will change. Then I'll change. I will be the first to admit or acknowledge that. But as long as I'm convinced that God has his hand on President Trump, I will never remove my support of him. Not going to happen. So there's your answer. Won't happen. I will stand behind him. I will pray for him. I will champion him. I will support him 100% because his presidency is the last thing standing between our country remaining a free country and our Constitution remaining intact and our country falling 100% to communism. I truly and firmly believe that. And so I will never, ever remove my support from him until I see unequivocally that God has removed his hand from Donald Trump. And I don't see that happening at this point. I think Trump would have to make a conscious decision to walk away. So, what do you guys think? It's about time for me to wrap this up. Yeah. You know, God does not choose the perfect people. He chooses the willing. Yeah. And yeah, Trump loves the people. There's never been a president that I've known of that has loved the people the way he does. Just hands down, he loves the people. He loves this country. He loves this country. He put his whole life on the line for this country. He exposed his family. He exposed all of his businesses. He's lost money. He's the only president that I know of whose net worth has gone down in office. So let's go back to 1776. Let's go back to the founding fathers. I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. That pretty much covers it. And he said, I will take the slings and arrows for you. So this is a man who is has such a deep love for this country that people are willing to fight for him. People are willing to go to bat for him and back him up because they know that he's the only one who's had our backs for the past 5 years and who still has our backs. So that's my stance on that. Okay. Now it is Thursday, and I don't know if I'm going to be on again throughout the weekend. Mary Ann on Facebook is saying, "Fight for Trump. He did for us." Absolutely, 100%, 100%. Yeah. So I don't know my schedule this weekend. I may come on over the weekend. I'm going to be doing some traveling next week. So we'll have to just see what happens. Make sure that when you come on the replay that you leave a comment, that you like my page, that you hit the thumbs up on the YouTube broadcast, and that you also follow the YouTube channel and turn on notifications. Make sure you're following me on um, Telegram. It's Mary Grace Media Official. Mary Grace Media Official on Telegram. I'm also on Cloud Hub channel 111. And if you're ever looking for a topic that I discussed, you can go through the show notes on my YouTube channel under each broadcast. Delia has been incredibly generous with her time in sort of transcribing and putting together show notes so that if you want to think, okay, when was the episode she talked about Peggy Hall, right? You can go through the notes and kind of see, oh, it was this one. And she does it sort of in chronological order according to the time that I did it in the broadcast. She doesn't do timestamps, but it gives you an idea, beginning, middle, end. Okay. YouTube. Thank you for being a calming voice of reason for us. Too much noise out there. You're welcome. Yeah. Please do share the broadcast. I've been unbelievably shadow banned. I used to get thousands and thousands of views on these platforms. And right now, it might actually just be like hundreds. So if you share, that actually helps. Send it in a private message, send it in an email so that people know I'm here. Okay. Now, sometimes people ask how they can support the channel. There's a couple ways you can do that. The first thing you can do is buy superfoods because that's actually going to help you as well. And the way that you do that is go to info@marygracemedia.com, send me an email. I'm going to send you some information with a promo code to save over $100 off of your superfoods order. And the other way you can do it is go to marygracemedia.com and just click on support. You can do like a one-time donation. You can do a monthly thing. There's a Venmo link. There's another one to give butter. So that's something good to do. So thank you for everybody that is participating in that. It definitely helps. And because it's not cheap to run a show, to pay for the software, to pay for the internet and all those things. It's definitely a labor of love, and so I thank all of you who've been behind this from the very beginning. Really appreciate it. But hey, get your superfoods because that's the best way to support you in the fight. And it's not just your body. A lot of people tell me that they get more mental clarity and that they even have that the fog and in many cases depression lifts. And that's a big deal to be able to have that to be able to have that happen just by the food that you choose. So everybody have a wonderful afternoon. Keep an eye on my channels so that you'll know when I come live. You might just have a bonus broadcast that you can watch over the weekend. And I hope everybody stays safe and just keep the faith, guys. This is a time for your faith to grow and for you to really grow in your grounding in the Lord because um he's not going to let us go, but everybody has an assignment and it's time to really think deeply and seriously about what yours is and take responsibility. So thanks again to my moderators. Thanks for all your great comments and your participation in the chat. I appreciate all of you and all